ink-a-dink, 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 ink-a-dink. Wow.
But Basil's got to get his shtick in first real quick, and that's going to be something to do with the fellow that's behind him.
Okay, so how...
and then we're going to leave the stage to you, and you can tell us about climate change. Because Basil's not real strong on that subject.
No, what I want you to play, I want to ask you the questions.
Okay.
And I want you to give me honest...
as long as you don't mind me leaning over and getting Basil in on the conversation.
You can ask Basil too.
Okay.
Matter of fact, it might be better if we had a computer.
Yeah.
You could be Googling while I'm talking.
Could be, yeah.
You know?
Could be.
But is Dave going to give us a hi-ho when it's time to go?
It's time whenever it's time, whenever we decide it's time.
So we're ready?
Yep. We're just going to...
So the tape's rolling, so we don't have to...
Right. Okay, but hold on. Well, what do you mean? Somebody scratching you behind the ear? Somebody whose name is kind of synonymous in movie lore with a rat? You're kidding. Hold on, I'm going to check. Oh, I'll be darned. Look at that. He was scratching it behind the ear. Sorry. We've had you on for a total of 4 shows now. You're the candidate. You're not going to get Buddha's. You're not going to get Buddha's or Basil's or anybody's endorsement on this show. So we'll bring you back at a future date. You can call in if you want.
Ask him one question.
Hold on, I got to get him on the phone. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I got to. Oh, hello. Yeah, Mitt. Yeah, hold on a second. Rich Frascone has a question for you. Go ahead.
Does global warming exist?
Does global warming exist?
I should have rephrased that. Is global warming happening? Is climate change occurring?
Okay, we're rephrasing that as climate change or global warming, your choice of definitions or your choice of terms. Is it happening at this moment? He says if he can make a buck on it, it's happening. Okay.
Well, I'll accept that answer.
If you okay, he wants to clarify his response too. If he can find a company that's making money off it, peel away all the profitable parts, and then dump the rest of it, and if there's some firing involved there, some layoffs, some firing, he's all for it. Because baby, that's venture capitalism. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's a shame of it too.
Okay. Oh, good morning. This is David Stevenson with Basil BuddhaCat on Basil BuddhaCat Presents, and we're continuing our Friday night discussion with Rich Frascone. Basil has graciously invited Rich on to talk about climate change, and Basil's not strong on the subject, so he's going to have a lot to learn. I'll have a lot to learn. Rich is going to give us a lot of good information, which you certainly can feel free to double check, to fact check Google, because that's what we like to do. We like to fact check things and look for the story behind the story, look for the facts behind the statements. And Rich, without further ado, go ahead.
Okay. Now, the one thing that I'd like to say is global warming and climate change. A lot of people like to address the issue as the jury is still out. There's no concise information, or there's no real way to put your finger on the pulse of is it happening or
no definitive evidence.
There's no. Well, that's what the deniers or the skeptics claim.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what you want to do is, and I mean, there's no doubt that climate change and global warming is happening. But when you have a conversation, there's so many different ambiguous terms and ways of identifying, and you can argue it until you're blue in the face.
Yeah.
So what you really want, when you want to argue climate change with somebody, and I mean, you don't want to get into a pissing match. You want to have an educated discussion.
Yeah.
So what I normally ask somebody, and you just pretend to be Joe Schmo, average guy, you don't know what's going on.
Okay, and we'll try to get maybe we'll get some call-ins along with this, and that'll be helpful too, I'm sure. Go ahead.
But I'll just ask you, do you think that global warming is happening? Do you think that climate change is occurring?
It would seem to me, based on my lifetime, which is 58 years, I have seen some definitive changes in this part of the world, in New England, in Connecticut, over the last 58 years. I remember growing up, going to school, and every single winter, you could bet there would be at least a few days where the high for the day would be below zero. You don't see it anymore. You just don't see that kind of cold anymore. I mean, sometimes you see a little bit more snow than you used to, but that's not an indication of temperature, really, because obviously if it's really, really cold, it's less likely to snow. So when you get more temperate days, more days in that 20 to 30 degree range, you're going to get more snow than if you've got temperatures in the 0 to 10 degree range.
So we would put you in the column of, yes, you think global warming is happening.
Based on my own personal observations, yeah, okay. I would say.
Now, you're going to find people that for whatever reason, are going to feel the exact opposite. And like I said, rather than get in a pissing contest with them, what you want to try to do is what you want to try to do is direct the argument so that you control the conversation. And I'll show you how you do that. You ask somebody, if we wanted to find out about climate change, who would we most likely ask? Who do you think would have the best handle that could tell us?
A scientist whose background was in the area of climate, I would think.
So you're saying that a scientist that has a background in climate science or global, those are the scientists we'd want to ask, right?
Okay, hold on there. Hold on. We've got a caller in. Hold on. Hello, this is Basil BuddhaCat Presents. Okay, we've got a caller in who is a scientist and also a contributor on Fox News.
There's a conflict of interest.
Are you allowed by Fox to use your name when you call in? Can you actually tell us who you are and certainly what your field of science is? Okay, he says his name is James Arce, and he in fact is, what's your field of science?
Snails.
Proctology.
Proctology.
Okay. Go ahead. Tell us about your experiences being on Fox and what kind of wisdom you've brought to their discussions on climate change. Are you in fact considered one of their specialists in climate change? He says he is. He says they hired him and pay him a fair amount of money to meet their expectations about climate change. And he says that he in his field, or as he calls it, in the tunnel, he says, nah, not enough evidence of climate change. And he says that he doesn't mind telling Mr. Murdoch and Mr. Murdoch's folks that in his scientific knowledge there is no such thing as climate change.
Well, you tell him one thing.
Go ahead.
Watching Fox News is like a religion. You have to have faith.
Are you hearing this?
You have to have faith to believe what they're telling you.
Okay.
It's that simple.
So it's faith-based.
It's faith-based news.
Faith-based news.
And that's what.
Okay, faith-based news. Now, do you have something to add to that conversation? Mr.
That's perfect.
Mr. R says that.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
You got to remember when you're watching Fox News now. You're getting the information from the Foxstitutes that work there.
Foxtitudes.
Foxtitudes, like
Got a funny sound to it.
Like the ladies of the night, the foxtitudes.
Basil has noted on many an occasion. Hold on, stay with us, please.
He likes that, right?
He says that's what he kind of gets. He kind of goes up to the TV and kind of like tries to climb their legs when he can see them.
The Foxtitudes on Fox News, they sell their soul to be on national TV. It's that simple. I mean, because how do they sit there? How do they sit there and lie to people without cracking up? I mean, how do you do that? How could you make your living doing? Could you imagine giving people the wrong directions every day?
Now,
hey, how do I get to Smith Street? You go this way, that.
Our scientist is weighing in on that. Yes, and again, I want to note for the audience, James Arce, Fox News contributor in the area of climate change. He says that they save up all their laughter for after the show, and they have a laugh fest after the show, and that's how they handle it. They're quite. He says they're quite good acting. They're not just good to look at.
All right, so let's pretend we're on Fox News.
We'll get back with you at a later date. Thanks for calling. Good.
Now we've already agreed that if we want to find out about climate science, okay, we want to ask a scientist that deals with climate science.
Makes sense.
We don't want to ask a scientist that studies earthworms. We really don't care about the physics of other universes. Okay, we don't care about solar eclipses. We want to find out things that directly affect us.
Hold on.
So we've agreed.
Okay, but Basil's he just wants to qualify that because he says he saw Godzilla. 3 times he says he saw Godzilla with Kristen and I. And he says, keep in mind that dude was in Russia studying earthworms. Okay?
Okay.
He thinks okay, go ahead.
So now we've agreed that we're going to go to a climate scientist to figure this out.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Now, when we want to talk to these scientists, where do you think would be the best place to contact them?
At perhaps a university where they teach.
Could we take it one step further than a university? Would you say that it would be a good idea if we went to the National Academy of Sciences in Washington, D.C., that encompasses all the sciences of all the universities in the country? Do you think that if we went there and if we said, fellas, we'd like the climate scientists to conduct a study on climate change, and we would like your professional opinion. If we got their professional, peer-reviewed opinions, don't you think that would satisfy once and for all if the jury is out as far as climate change?
Well, certainly there's going to be some level of some shades of disagreement amongst, but they're all going to be kind of between here and here as far as.
But if we took,
if we took climate change with some
we took a survey
slight disagreement
of 1,372 climate scientists, that would be a pretty good survey, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, we're not talking 2 or 3. We're talking about 1,374. Now, what they did in the survey, they excluded 300 of the scientists for different reasons, okay?
So let's say hypothetically that there might have been some, but so certainly 1,300 out of 1,300 out of 1,600.
Okay, and most of the scientists,
which is a pretty fair chunk.
Most of the scientists that were reviewed, the review was based on the amount, the amount of peer-reviewed printed information, and so really what I'm trying to say is what you want when you're talking about climate change and you want to really just end the conversation and just stop it and stop somebody dead in their track, you got to get them to agree that first of all, who should conduct the experiments, and we agreed that it would be the climate scientists, from an accredited establishment, which we established by the National Association of Sciences, in a study that's been peer-reviewed, footnoted, up the yin-yang. I mean, everything is with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each. There can be no denying this. Now, out of all the scientists that were surveyed, take a guess what percentage agreed conclusively that climate change is happening. Conclusively.
It's going to be a small number, somewhere like around 97 or 98%.
You're exactly right. It's between 97 and 98% concluded that not only is global warming happening, but it's happening at a rate faster than was previously thought of. So when somebody gets uppity with you and, the volcanoes put up carbon and this and that, listen, stop the bullshit. Stop. This is what the science climatologists, I'm guessing, this is what they said from the National Academy of Sciences, that it's over. It's over. Now you got to remember, even though 98% is a landslide, it still leaves 2% that are deniers.
Okay.
And there are some people.
That's still pretty conclusive when you have that type of percentage.
Well, exactly. But what I'm trying to say is they left nothing up to chance. This isn't Judy from Nebraska telling you that global warming is happening. This is the cream of the crop of the top of the scientists. And the easiest way to do this is to just go online and you can look up PNAS, which stands for the National Academy of, it's the peer study of the National Association of Sciences, and it's online. It's a June 10th publication. It's 4 pages. It's black and white. It's as plain as the nose on my face. You can't argue with it. I mean, of course you can argue with it, but you know what?
Okay.
It gets to the point where you're going to get the 2% that say, listen, I don't care how much you tell me the sky is blue. I think it's green, and that's all. And then you're going to get the people of faith that say, listen, Reverend Rush told me that global warming wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to believe it. And you could be willfully ignorant for the rest of your life. You could be the 2% that say, I don't care what you tell me.
Okay, hold on. We've got a call. Okay. Hello, Basil BuddhaCat presents. Okay, yes, thank you for calling. And could you identify yourself, please? Okay. He says he's the 3-piece suited climatologist Jesus. Now, come on. Okay. You have to. Let's. I need to know now. Tweety is tracking back your phone number, trying to find where you're actually calling from, trying to identify who you actually are.
Did I tell you that Jesus loves the 99%? It's written in the Bible.
Oh well, that's
it's in there. I forget exactly where, but it's in there.
Undoubtedly true, I'm sure. But he says, no, actually, it's actually Rick Santorum. Okay, Mr. Santorum, now that we know, now that you've kind of fessed up to who's actually calling in, wait, you say you've got somebody else that wants to say something about this climate change. Hold on a second. Okay. All right, go ahead. Put him on the phone, or her. Put them on the phone. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, I'm gonna tell the audience, because we cannot hear your voice via our cell phone. We don't have the Basil phone with us today, and Basil still claims that he thinks that maybe Marty Heiser might have made off with that Basil phone when he was on, but Basil, that's really not fair, because Marty's going to come back and defend himself on that charge, and I'm sure I'm sure he's clean on that. Okay, I have to say exactly what Rick Santorum's other caller will call him. And he wouldn't say who he was, other than the fact that his initials are R.L. Okay, I'll do the best I can to try to translate. What the hell are you trying to say? There's no such thing. Those commie, pinko, liberal Democrats, Oh, could that be? I think it's actually Rush Limbaugh.
Is it a fat voice? That's what I was going to ask you.
A very, very robust voice, let's call it.
When it comes right down to it,
oh, thank you. We'll try to get back with you before the end of the show, and if not, certainly on a future show. Because that's actually Basil's contract has been extended now. Basil's got another 3 months for the show. We've done about 25 shows so far, and there's plenty more in the cooker, right, Baz? Basil says yes. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
All right. So anyway, just getting back to the whole premise of the conversation.
Yeah, climate change.
What you want to do is, because it's so ambiguous, and you really, I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it. That's why let the guys that do it for a living. Mm-hmm. You want to learn about bowling. You going to call a golfer? No. You want to learn, you understand what I'm saying? You want to know about climate change, ask the climate scientists. It's that simple.
Basil says he says you might as well call a dog.
Call it dog.
To learn about cats.
Okay, there you go. But so anyway, mm-hmm. What I hope I impart to everybody is that when people challenge you on mm-hmm. the idea of climate change, hit them right between the eyes and say, no, wait a minute. But see, you, like I said, you don't want to get into a pissing contest. You got to nail them down. You got to get them to agree mm-hmm. in all your would you agree? Who should we ask? Well, we want to ask, and you get them to make up, what scientists would you agree? Yes, I would agree. Okay. And eventually you just lead them down the path, and then you say, okay, this is what the scientists found.
Sounds like fairly convincing evidence.
There you go. And now it's, so now all we have to do is figure out what are we going to do mm-hmm. to prevent this from killing us. Because eventually, if we don't make any changes, we're doomed. Have you noticed in the last couple of years, perfect example.
Go ahead.
My wife has a Jeep Wrangler with the plastic, the window, the
Jeep Wrangler Sport, and do the doors come off?
No. But you know what I'm talking. The plastic things that go over the doors when it's raining. They're like drip caps and
they're
like
they
black plastic or
Mm-hmm.
She was in a hailstorm in New Jersey.
Yeah.
All the things were all broken. She had dents in the hood. I said, honey, what happened? I said, it looks like you were in a marble fight. She goes, it was hail, and so she goes, and I was shocked that the windshield wasn't shattered. And you're saying, why is this happening? And if you really start to think about climate change and global warming, mm-hmm. when the planet gets warmer, when the water starts to get warmer, as the water evaporates, more of it evaporates and more condensation gets up into the clouds, so the clouds are full of a lot more water. So instead of having a little shower, now you have a rainstorm. And I tell you, there was some time, we've been living in our house for 28 years, mm-hmm. all right? The house flooded the first year because I didn't know where the drains were. As soon as I found that out, it never flooded again.
Oh, okay.
Till last year.
You mean curtain drains around the house, or French drain within the house?
The curtain drains with the gutters and
okay.
I know,
Okay.
So it was a matter of just like anything else, you got to learn, what to take. This year, the house flooded twice, mm-hmm. and the problem was that nothing's been built, nothing's changed in almost 30 years since we've lived there. Yeah. I mean, there's no new housing. Mm-hmm. There was a river coming down from behind my house. I'm telling you, if I had a small kayak, I could have. But I'm saying, where is all this water coming? But the fact that it was raining so hard, and I have a van, and the drops were hitting the van so hard. I'm going, wow, it's scary. And so, this stuff is starting to come true. And let's think about this year. I spent, I think, virtually 4 days without power because we had the snowstorms. Yeah. And then about 3 months later, we had the other storms. We were out, I think, another 4 days after that. Dave, this is all in 1 year, so don't tell me that things aren't happening. Now, of course, you could sit there and you could say, well, back in the medieval times there was global warming too. You could be ridiculous. You could make a stupid statement like, in so-and-so Colorado, this is the earliest the ski slopes have ever opened. It never snowed this early before. That's an aberration. That's what we're talking about now is almost like a daily occurrence. Think about the towns that don't exist anymore, that have been wiped off the face of the earth because of tornadoes. Now, let's be honest. Tornadoes have always happened. There's always been damage. The Wizard of Oz is perfect proof.
Yeah.
But they've never happened in the degree of severity.
They did that using a stocking they used to
the Wizard of Oz?
To create that effect. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's how they did it.
I didn't know.
But go ahead.
But things are changing, and now it's just a matter. But why deceive people?
Mm-hmm.
Why tell them it's not happening? You're going to have to bite the bullet sooner or later. So what are you going to do? You're just going to keep pushing it off. And, it's more or less like this idea of government. And you listen to the people in the Tea Party and, we don't want no government. We don't want nobody telling us what we could do. Hey, guess what? If you build a factory and you're polluting a river
mm-hmm.
and you're killing all the fish in the river, we're going to tell you to stop doing that. If you're building a factory and you're burning coal and you're putting all this carbon dioxide, guess what? We're going to tell you to stop it. Now, don't use the bullshit. Well, the people in China and the people in... Hey, we all got it. We all have to address the problem because the thing is, there's only one planet. And right now, and especially yesterday, Rush comes up with this thing. There's one planet, but at the way we're using stuff right now, we really need 2 planets to supply us with And it's almost true. If we stop wasting everything.
Gingrich has got our second planet lined up, Newt Gingrich. He lined us up with a second planet.
I thought he hooked
Mars.
us up with the moon.
Mars.
Oh, it's Mars? I thought it was the moon.
I think it's actually Mars that he was talking about colonizing.
But, you get these fruitcakes, and, what bothers me is how they get, and I have to use the word simple folk, but how they get the simple folk to vote against their own interest, and how they vehemently stand... and I had one guy, I said to the guy, this is online, I said, if you want to debate global warming, I'll be more than happy to talk about global warming to you. But, if we're going to talk about, childbirth,
mm-hmm.
and, if you start to bring the stork into the conversation, I'm out of here, And it's like these creationists. You get some of these people, they go, well, the world is 6,000 years old. And you know what? I'm a very patient guy, and believe me.
Well, Fox does have one more. They do have another climate change expert that they call on occasionally, and he, in fact, also doubles as a stork doctor.
As a throat doctor?
Stork.
Stork doctor.
Yeah. He does believe, in fact, that's how babies are brought into the world by the stork.
What bothers me is, why would you want, I can understand the idea of Santa Claus and having fun with the little kids
mm-hmm.
and everybody's in on it,
Yeah.
But the thing is, with global warming, why are you going to perpetuate a myth? It's like religion. Why are you going to perpetuate a myth for what? Why?
Okay,
let's get this stuff out.
We're going to have you back on to talk more
Sunday morning.
More spiritual topics, including religion. But actually, we've run our course on this fine Sunday morning. This has been Basil BuddhaCat Presents. I'm David Stevenson, Basil's co-host, interpreter, and gopher, and our dear friend now, Rich Frascone.
They say they'd rob your grandma blind on Wall Street, fritter her away her Medicare on Wall Street, and Pharma Oil and their pet fox Don't care if she lives in a box, so long as they wear platinum jocks on Wall Street, on Wall Street. Meow.